Building a game can be an extremely tough job. There are a lot of moving parts involved in crafting a game, and for many reasons, developers sometimes make decisions that leave the final product feeling worse than its predecessor. It could be design decisions that don't align with other aspects of a game, artistic directions that don't gel with the fan base, or maybe even development issues or mandates that make it seem like the pitch was, hey, let's make it worse. With this feature, we'll be taking a look at 15 such examples of games gone wrong. Overwatch II. Now, the original Overwatch was a runaway success that garnered a sizable player base and many awards, and many fans were understandably excited about the sequel. Overwatch 2's announcement sparked excitement with promises of expanded PvE and a broader scope overall, but what we got, in reality, was a shooter that lost focus of what made it so special in the first place. The magic of Overwatch's PvE was gone, and the expanded PvP options felt shallow and generic. Diablo Immortal. Imagine developing a game so bad that even its announcement results in a massive boo from the audience that echoes across the show floor. Well, that's exactly what happened when Diablo Immortal, a mobile-only entry in the RPG series, was announced at BlizzCon 2018. The watered-down gameplay, coupled with a progression system that was incessant on microtransactions, didn't innovate things in a positive direction, leaving the game in ruins. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This one, of course, might be subjective, but try to understand it from the point of a longtime fan. Assassin's Creed was always supposed to be about being an assassin, hiding in the shadows, clambering across rooftops, and sneakily taking out different enemies. Building a game around being a massive tank of a Viking, storming through the open world, and prioritizing axes and long swords instead of hidden blades and smoke bombs. And in addition to all of this, you also get a gameplay loop that's all about running in circles, grinding through quests to get a level where you can tackle the main quest and doing that all over again. It's not a bad game, but it barely resembles what stealth games stood for. Star Wars Battlefront II.
Will prevail. We must not lose a single command post if we are to prevent the Resistance forces from pushing forward.
The original Star Wars Battlefront was a good game that didn't quite have the longevity we would have come to expect from such experiences, and EA's response to those criticisms was to build a sequel, but launch it with even lesser content, a single-player mode that was woefully mediocre, and also squeeze in microtransactions for good measure. It was an objectively worse idea from the get-go, and it remained so till its execution. Battlefield 2042. The chronicles of EA missing the mark with its beloved franchises continue with Battlefield 2042. After spending much time recounting bygone eras with the last two entries, Battlefield 2042 took things to the future with this entry. High-tech weaponry, bigger arenas, the whole 9 yards really. But, interestingly, EA stripped the game of a single-player campaign, basic features like voice comms, and so many other design issues that went on to make the game feel like it was a prequel rather than a sequel. Worse in almost all aspects, and a grand failure when it was actually released. Dead Space 3. Dead Space is all about surviving against insurmountable odds in outer space, and what could make it even better? Well, take away its core identity and replace those aspects with trendy RPG designs and a combat that leans more towards action than horror, right? Well, at least that's what EA thought with Dead Space 3, and the result was a sequel that felt disconnected from the series' survival horror roots. Bloated game length with side quests and ill-forgotten fitted progression mechanics were just not hitting the mark for anyone, and Dead Space 3 is widely regarded as the black sheep of this otherwise quite prestigious family. Resident Evil 6.
It's you? That's right. Chris? Better put a leash on that puppy. This is between me and him.
EA wasn't the only gaming giant that gave in to the trends and lost sight of what made its game so special in the first place. Exhibit A, Resident Evil 6. It leans so heavily towards action that it's almost impossible to actually recognize that it came from the same DNA that was about carefully trotting your way through zombies in the Spencer Mansion. Resident Evil 6 might be a guilty pleasure if you embrace its cringy writing and B-action films inspired set pieces, but ask any longtime fan, it's not something they really remember fondly. Crackdown 3. Crackdown 3 spent a really long time in development and was once a flag bearer of games that would never actually release. It was being touted as a revolutionary game that was powered by Microsoft's cloud infrastructure, and loud claims about detailed destruction mechanics were made, but the issue was that there was nothing really interesting actually going on here. Sure, you could bring down buildings and they would come off in style, but that doesn't mean much when you are put in a world that's visibly generic, and the majority of the gameplay is all about shooting endlessly at oversized targets. It was hyped to be revolutionary, but we all knew that this was a classic case of a tech demo being disguised as a full game. Silent Hill HD Collection. The Silent Hill HD Collection repackaged the Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3 versions for a modern audience, but that remaster was riddled with issues that made the end product something that was actually worse than the original. Major issues highlighted by fans include the inconsistent fog that made the original's ambiance so ominous and spooky, poor voice acting, and even issues with endings in Silent Hill 2's case. Grand Theft Auto Trilogy: The Definitive Edition. The PS2 era Grand Theft Auto games are highly revered as revolutionary for their time, and messing up a remaster would be nothing short of a heinous sin here. But somehow, developer Grove Street Games managed to do just that, strip away the charm and release an objectively worse version of these games for the current gen. Tasteless AI upscale textures, loads of bugs, and horrendous weather effects, I mean come on, that rain at launch, were just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the many issues that GTA Trilogy: The Definitive Edition brings with it. Warcraft III Reforged. Warcraft 3 is one of the most loved games of all time, and it laid the groundwork for what would become World of Warcraft. Reforged was an attempt to bring this classic back to a brand new set of audiences, but with even worse underwhelming visuals and performance issues all around. It was such a big disaster that Blizzard started offering refunds to customers shortly after the game was released, and its tale of development is one where the management forced a team to deliver a product on a shoestring budget just to gather profits. Skull and Bones. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is highly revered as one of the best games in the genre, so Skull and Bones was an attempt to take the naval combat and build a bigger game around it. The elevator pitch takes a nosedive in its appeal when you add in live service mechanics and aggressive microtransactions, and it didn't help that the game changed developers and missed deadlines. The end result was a half-baked hodgepodge of ideas marketed as a, get this, quadruple A game, and we all know how that turned out. Dark Souls 2. From Software well and truly knocked it out of the park with the original Dark Souls, putting forth an unforgiving beast of a game that featured a stellar interconnected map design and unforgettable bosses. Dark Souls 2 tried to up the ante with a bigger scope, but in actually doing so, lost touch with what made the original game so special. Most bosses lacked the depth or even challenge of Ornstein and Smoke. The new light and dark mechanics felt quite frustrating, and the interconnected map design was really just let go in favor of some isolated areas chained together with fast travel. Now, it's not bad, but again, not better than the original. Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights felt like a formula primed for success after Arkham Knight, but as we inch closer to the game's release, it became certain that it was actually a train wreck just waiting to happen. Gotham Knights took the impressive rhythmic combat of Arkham Knight and built a loot-centric grind that prioritized stats over substance, and that's something that just doesn't jive with what Gotham Knights took from the Arkham series. As a result, what we got was a disappointing release on both a functional and even a sort of technical level, with so many performance issues. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Apparently, a single failure of the whole take the best out of Batman and carve it into a generic live service game wasn't enough for WB, and we got Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The idea of playing as these anti-heroes is pretty novel, but the execution is plagued with all sorts of issues, ranging from generic mission design to boring combat and much more. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.